I had, during my time as co-commander, flown over the place. My daughter had also recently spoken about Baisaran. It's a beautiful meadow and it's very popular with tourists. I was the Director General of Military Operations during Operation Sindhoor. The DGMO is the fulcrum of all operational activity in the Indian Army. A key person within Army headquarters to keep a 24/7, 365 watch on all operational activity happening on any border or even within the country. And he is then in a position to actually crystal gaze and look ahead as to how operations will unfold. It was a routine day. The first call that I got was from the co-commander in Kashmir. He told me that there was something happening in Baisaran. Because you've been through incidents like that, I knew the ring was different. I knew that I had to walk up to the Chief of Army Staff and inform him.
I have been in uniform for 40 years plus. So as to the decision making is concerned, it's part of my blood. On that fateful day of 22nd April, I was presiding over the retiring officer seminar.
I remember taking that short walk from the Military Operations Directorate to where the veteran officers seminar was being held.
So when I was giving the talk, I suddenly realized General Ghai, my DGMO, entered the room. He had a very serious face and he walked up to the podium, put the hand on the mic and whispered, "Sir, there has been a terrorist attack."
I received a call from the helpline. This lady was speaking on the other side. She said, "I'm Himanshi," and there was a lot of panic and anger mixed kind of tone that she was showing. She said that my husband has been shot. Himanshi is the wife of late Lieutenant Binay Narwal of Navy, who was there in Baisaran that day. We had asked the unit which was nearby to go to the incident site with the quick reaction teams that we have.
So first one to react was my company commander. I told him, just rush to the location. Next 5 minutes, I was also out.
I was in communication with the CO who was moving in. It was still 30 to 35 minutes away. That was a little frustrating moment.
From Pahalgam reaching Baisaran, there is no metal road. So you just have to walk. It's a walk of somewhere around 30 to 40 minutes. And whatever the chatter we were picking when we were climbing up by the Kotra and Puniwalas, they were saying it is a cold-blooded murder. The ground situation was basically there were dead bodies all around.
It wasn't a normal terror attack. In my opinion, it was a kind of an execution which was taking place where victims were segregated. They were taken apart, sorted on the basis of their religion, and mercilessly in cold blood executed right in front of their families. The first images and videos started trickling from the first responders who had reached there. In my life, I have never seen the kind of barbarity that was so gory.
these civilians had been killed in cold blood with automatic weapons such as AK-47.
Earlier attacks were indiscriminate. They killed anybody who came in front of them. Here they segregated Hindus and Muslims and killed Hindu men.
I don't express it. I'm very emotional man at some level. I really felt very bad. Felt very sad that this young couple must have thought, must have planned, packed their things, will go to Pahalgam, come back, and the wife is sitting and they are telling कि जाके मोदी को बोल दो, जो कर सकता है कर ले.
So like I think all citizens of the country, we were actually hit by the brutality of this attack. I think it was most barbaric.
We will go after them. वो जमीन में हो, आसमान में हो, पाताल में हो, जहाँ भी. We will not forgive.
Any act of terror will be considered as an act of war.
If there is an escalation to this particular conflict, so be it.
And then we went into full-fledged war mode, I would say.
Prime Minister told me that we should call it Operation Sindhoor.
We were ready and our fingers were on the trigger.
Then nothing stopped us and we were no holds barred. All the officers and men were full of josh.
The entire nation's hope rested on us.
We will unfold it like a good movie.
So the Prime Minister said, वहाँ से गोली, यहाँ से गोला.
Exclusive partner Rafi and Piper, advanced drone systems designed and built in India.
Fortnight before the Pahalgam attack, Rasim Munir was actually provoking kind of terrorist organizations into attacking India or carrying out some terrorist attack. During his speech to non-resident Pakistanis and investors, he said that we are two different people, we are not one people. We have a different culture, we have a different tradition, and India and Pakistan have nothing in common, and we have come from two different religions. And a very provocative speech basically, which was like a dog whistle to the terrorist groups and the elements in ISI. This was a very well planned, well thought out and deliberate attack designed for 2 or 3 intentions or outcomes from that. And they were: 1, create communal divide in India; 2, hit the booming tourism economy in Jammu and Kashmir; and 3, by doing that, try and get more local recruits from Jammu and Kashmir. Prime Minister Narendra Modi was in Saudi Arabia on a visit. He had left that morning, and the attack actually simultaneously happened as he was about to land in Riyadh. The moment the Prime Minister landed, somebody from the SPG went up to him and whispered into his ear something. So the Prime Minister vanished from public view.
When I went to the Prime Minister, actually he had already known about it, and I found him quite serious. Normally he has got a lot of calm, and under difficult circumstances I have never seen him ruffled up. But he said, ये बुरा हुआ है, इसका प्रतिकार करना पड़ेगा. We will have to take suitable and proportionate actions.
So he had his meeting with the Saudi Prince Mohammed bin Salman, and immediately the Prime Minister and his delegation headed back to Delhi.
Prime Minister returned. Foreign Secretary had come to receive him. Then at the airport itself he had a meeting. First he wanted to know all the facts. And then his first question to me is, who has done it? Who is responsible? We should be very clear who the perpetrators are. I wanted immediately. Thanks to our intelligence agencies, I think they did a brilliant job. And within a very short time, we were able to arrive at the conclusion, mainly because of the equipment that they had left at the site. which was the communication equipment, which carried the route that they had tracked, also carried their communications with their mentors in Pakistan, and also their communications amongst themselves. So it was very clear that they were Pakistanis. So I thought that we must go for proactive deterrence, and I could make out that the Prime Minister's mind was also that we have got to go for a proactive deterrence. 90% of the fog was over with that. After that, it's a question of what is that we can do. On these matters, when you decide, you first decide that what are the enemy's expectations from you. So my way of thinking has always been never do what the enemy expects you to do. And that is the element of surprise.
If you have to win, you have to take risks in life. Without taking a risk, you can never win. NSA called me very early in the morning. He had just returned from Saudi Arabia, and he said that, we need to plan things. And by the time Honorable Raksha Mantri had also called for a meeting.
So clearly the ball had been set rolling.
The most important meeting was held by the Honorable Prime Minister, in which Raksha Mantri, NSA, the three service chiefs and myself were present.
We met the PM when he called for a meeting, and he decided that this time, whatever we do, it has to be big and impactful, and it must teach them their lessons. For any military man, when the time comes and you know that this is the time to prove our worth, you suddenly start getting that adrenaline rush, and you start feeling, maybe this was the time you wore your uniform for.
Immediately that evening after the Cabinet Committee on Security meeting, it was decided by India to scrap the long-standing Indus Water Treaty of 1960.
टेरर और टॉक एक साथ नहीं हो सकते। टेरर और ट्रेड एक साथ नहीं चल सकते, और पानी और खून भी एक साथ नहीं बह सकता।
Withdrawing the Indus Water Treaty, which had survived 3 wars and had never been discussed or considered as an option, despite the fact that it was a one-sided treaty completely in favor of Pakistan.
I say to the whole world, India will identify, track, and punish every terrorist and their backers. We will pursue them to the ends of the earth. India's spirit will never be broken by terrorism. Terrorism will not go unpunished. Every effort will be made to ensure that justice is done. The entire nation is firm in this resolve. Everyone who believes in humanity is with us. I thank the people of various countries and their leaders who have stood with us in this time.
Honorable Prime Minister has made it very clear, any act of terror will be considered as an act of war. I flew down to the Western Naval Command headquarters. The Eastern Naval Command units, which were combat ready, they were just pushed out from Visakhapatnam. When they joined on the Western Seaboard, and they became a part of this force. Within the 96 hours of that terrorist attack, we had carried out a large number of weapon firings.
I called for a conference of Vice Chief, DGMO, DGMI and ADG Stratcom. What next and what range? These are the two things we wanted to discuss.
I had no doubt that we were in a situation where we would have to respond differently from times gone by. And we would need to make sure that we responded in a manner which very unambiguously gave out our intent. That we were not going to tolerate this or any form of terrorism.
Around 26th, we generally homed down to various terrorist targets which we can neutralize.
What the Prime Minister wanted was, it should not lead to any collateral damages to the civilian casualties. Number two, we are not declaring a war against Pakistan. Number three, we have got terrorists as the main culprits.
Especially in the initial few days, selection of targets, etc. The accuracy of information was provided by the intelligence agencies, largely done through the Office of National Security Advice.
So objectives that were decided were terrorist camp, nothing more, nothing less.
They came up with a rough list of about 34 targets.
The numbers were many, but the important thing to decide was that how many would be enough to send a stern message across. And I was an integral part of that engine room which was planning this operation. We were doing a daily 24-hour research and evolving the intelligence that we had available on these targets.
They evolved a matrix, tabulated the whole target list into ease of targeting, line of sight, whether it is there, how many people are there, important people or important terrorist functionaries are there, and they had a scale from 0 to 5 for different parameters.
After evaluating their success possibility, after evaluating the deterrence effect that the Prime Minister wanted, after ensuring that it will not lead to any collateral damage, after ensuring that the message is loud and clear to the terrorists as also their mentors and supporters.
Thereafter, we homed down to the 9 targets. There were 5 targets in POJK and 4 targets in Pakistan.
The NSA went with the targets and the intention to the Prime Minister, saying there are these risks of retaliation from Pakistan because you were hitting the Pakistan-Punjab province, which was always seen or projected by Pakistan as a no-go area, a red line. If crossed, would invite nuclear retaliation or something catastrophic. Now it's for you to sign off whether we should do this or do something else. And the Prime Minister apparently said, give me 10 to 12 hours. And so on 30th, the Prime Minister signed off on this plan.
I was again called in the evening by Prime Minister. He asked me, what is the name which has been given to the operation? I replied that it is Tulip Garden as of now because it has happened in Delhi. He told me that we should call it Operation Sindhoor. I said, sir, that's a very good name because Indus Water Treaty has been frozen. So it relates to that. He said, no, it is Operation Sindhoor. क्योंकि उन्होंने हमारी महिलाओं की मांग का सिंदूर उजाड़ा है और हमें उसका बदला लेना है. Spontaneously came to my mind, this will unite the complete of India, and this is the first time all the 3 services will be having a common operational name.
We identified 9 targets finally, starting from the north, across the line of control. Sayyidna Bilal, Savai Nala, Kotli, Gulpur, Bhimber, Mehmoona Joya, Sarjal, and of course Bahawalpur and Muridke. These were all located at varying distances from the line of control or the international boundary. This was different. You were taking the fight to the enemy.
Each building had to be studied in detail. The composition of the building, the construction of the building was to be matched with the weaponry which we are going to use.
Then, depending on the distance at which they were located and the weapon platform that was being utilized to eliminate those, it was decided that 7 of the targets would be engaged by the Indian Army and the remaining 2 at Bahawalpur and Muridke would be engaged by the Indian Air Force.
Air power is something we look at, we'll be likely the first responders. And we were very sure about 2 things, that the damage we would like to cause should be enough to, leave no ambiguity. The 2 targets we were given was Muridke, which is about 30 kilometers from the border, closer to Lahore. One was Bahawalpur, which is almost about 100 kilometers from the border. Both these were symbolically very important because this is the fountainhead of terrorism. Muridke was the headquarters of the LET and Bahawalpur of Jaish-e-Mohammed. So it is like going into their house and hitting them.
And it is located within the city. So the challenge was firstly to strike deep and also to ensure that there is no collateral damage.
There are a lot of people, a lot of families who were staying around them because that's how the terrorists thrive. I think they choose their places accordingly so that they get this kind of a first line of defense.
And since the targets were big, that is why we decided together that Air Force will take on this target, because we had to have the requisite weight of attack, which Air Force could deliver at that distance into the enemy territory with precision.
And then we set about putting our minds together to make the plan.
Some of us are born to be in crisis always. I have dealt with multiple crises in these scenarios being posted in Northern Command so many times. Northern Command motto is that it's forever in combat, and you are always waiting for that adrenaline to be there flowing all the time. When this entire planning process was happening, indication to me was there from the chief that whenever it happens, you will be taking over Northern Army. When this intense planning phase was on in the army headquarters and the corridors of Delhi, I was fully integrated into that. And I knew that I have to go. I was waiting for MS France to quickly issue this posting order in black and white so that I can just grab that order and fly off. And I remember that particular day, Chief had called everybody in the MO Ops room. And I, as Deputy Chief, started everything happening in my mind. I was waiting for that thing to happen. And suddenly somebody came from behind, "Sir, your posting order in black and white is already out." I just got up from the chair. In whatever conversation was happening, I could not even register what was happening. I got up and I requested Chief, "Sir, can I be excused? I want to take a flight within an hour." And he said, "Go." When I reached Udhampur, I had to take care of what is the targeting matrix. That if I have these 7 camps to be targeted, how exactly will I do it? What are the vectors I will use? And also, which are the areas within those targets which should, come what may, the precision strike must go there. I was to take over from 1st of May as the Vice Chief. So when I came in here, of course, some of the planning had already started in terms of putting the forces up in the requisite places, upping our air defense alert levels.
And I was to move out as AOC in Sea Southwestern Air Command. I mean, I hit the ground running, I would say, and I was good to go from the day I landed there. So all that was required to be done was to give a call to every station and tell them that they need to now keep the powder dry.
So the preparatory phase, if I have to talk about, one was not sure how many days will I get, because targeting had to happen. One was not sure it's going to be within 2 days, within a day, within 3 days. One was not very sure. So in this preparatory phase, each and every minute which was there with me, I was utilizing it very judiciously. I wanted to ensure that the plans on the LC are in place. For all that entire steps of escalation, I have my people in place. I have my weapon, ammunition all stocked up. I had to cater for surprise. People should not come to know that in what domain India is going to respond.
There were rehearsals happening. People were rehearsing on their platforms or the vector or any particular ammunition that was going to be utilized. They were in the training areas, they were on the field firing ranges. They knew that they would at some point in time be asked to get into action, but they necessarily did not know as to where exactly they would be firing.
I had selected each and every commander for targeting of these camps. I got them together, we discussed that these are the targets, this is the planning, these are the vectors to be used within the target, which building, which area has to be struck, all that planning was done.
And from 1st of May onwards, these rehearsals intensified.
Routine activities at unit level were underway when I received the call from my commanding officer. He was already in the operational area. He asked me to move to command headquarters and got an initial brief of an impending task. Battalion battle procedures were activated, and all special strike teams, they went on to their carrying out their rehearsals.
In these kind of operations, terrain plays a major role. So you need to study the terrain in that short time, and as the terrain we see here is mountainous. So for the planning phase, we did a lot of recce on and off the map.
Commanding officer my regiment, he has called all the officers in his office and told that he has received the orders and one of our subunit has to air mobilize to an unspecified location. The moment we reached airfield, it is near about 2400 hours. Next day, in the morning, we landed at the valley. We mobilized and reached our location from where we have finally carried out our mission. For the next 4 or 5 days, we have rehearsed, improved our drills and increasing our force protection measures.
All the directions were given for them to prepare, be ready.
There are very few people in the Air Force who were aware
of specific information. The units which had to do the planning were informed.
So for that you need immense amount of planning, because carrying out a strike into another nation, it is not a very easy job. So I personally started planning missions. I knew that whatever platform or whatever happens eventually, we will always have to plan a strike.
We have simulated targets and we practice these missions regularly in our routine training sorties. So as a military aviator, I think we had already started preparing from our side, because we knew that it might be a possibility that some operation might have to be conducted.
So we knew that once we carry out the neutralization of targets, Pakistan will also respond, and they will respond heavily.
And we had to take that into consideration, because I knew for sure that come what may, moment this retaliation starts, it is going to start from the LC.
We'd already wargamed that. Three, 4 levels beyond. So we were prepared for that.
I also wanted to ensure that my air defense and electronic warfare grid is also in place. Just in case it's getting into a drone warfare, I should have my grid in place. And for this, I couldn't have done it on my own.
I'm the Director General of Army Air Defense. The Army Air Defense looks after strategic and tactically important installations. The Air Force has something called the ISCCS. And the Army Air Defense has something called the Akashti system. It's a totally indigenous system. It's an outstanding control and reporting system. It reports air threat and controls your weapon systems.
All our radars are networked into an integrated system, and the weapons which are also networked with this radar, they are also integrated into this entire network. So it becomes like a giant mesh which covers the entire country.
The latency of the Akashti system from the ISCCS to the weapon end is 2 to 3 milliseconds. I mean, that's the capability that we have, because an air threat manifests in 18, 20, 30, 40 seconds.
I knew that this air defense is going to play a huge role in deterring Pakistan from undertaking one aspect of the retaliation, which is dealing with the airspace. And I also wanted to ensure that there should be some kind of an escalation matrix also should be worked out in such a manner that firstly we should be dominating each and every ladder of escalation, and secondly at every ladder Pakistan must get an exit window in case he wants to take.
Pakistan carries out misinformation at industrial scale. Denial, distortion, fabrication of facts is something which they have honed over a period of time. I came up with the idea that we require credible, real-time visual imagery of the strikes taking place, and are quickly being able to put them out at the world stage will destroy any scope for Pakistan to carry out any kind of misinformation on that account. The troops in ground will execute the task that has to be done, and it will be left for us, the information warriors, to be able to justify their actions to the world. As part of our planning to be able to execute this in real time, I had nominated one officer per live screen whose job was to record the exact time of impact at that particular target.
While nobody was saying that it has to be done tomorrow or day after, but in our minds we knew that we'd selected the targets, we'd put the wherewithal into place, we'd carried out operational rehearsals. Now we needed to home on to the time and the date.
To my people, it was very clear that every day they are getting is a day bonus. Keep preparing. When the time comes, you need only that much time. So they were quite confident, quite relaxed, calm, composed, and very clear.
So on 1st of May, when I met Raksha Mantri, and thereafter he decided that it should be done on 7th of May early morning between 0100 hours to 0200 hours. So my complete narrative was looking at that we should have rehearsals on 6th, 8th, 10th and final go on 12th. This way we were trying to make sure that nobody gets to know that 7th is the date which has been chosen.
So surprise is a very big part of the whole game. While there is rhetoric also going on, but they don't know what is going to happen or what is the exact time, what is the exact targets that have been chosen. That is the major surprise.
So it was not communicated to me on telephone that, listen, Pratik, this is the day or this is the time when targeting had to be done. So a high state of surprise was to be maintained. I had to send an officer, a brigadier level officer. He went to Delhi. Chief personally gave him a small chit. He told him, don't open it. You go and hand it over to the army commander. And he will open it by himself. So 6th afternoon I got the time. I had to keep it close to my heart.
By the 6th morning, it was clear to us that we were going to engage the targets that night. And we homed on to the time as 0105 in the early hours of the morning. Because that's the time when the chances of you achieving surprise are the maximum. Because if you were to do it, let's say during the day, you might find the people in those terror camps that you are hitting, but they could be out, they could well be training. And as we were getting closer to the strike, the Military Operations Directorate itself was not aware that that was the night. There was only one person there who was aware, and that was me. At a certain point in time, after I'd informed the army commanders, I informed my own officers and staff in the Military Operations Directorate that tonight was the night.
The exact indication came not more than 7 hours prior to when we hit.
In the afternoon, our commanding officer and flight commander had called us. Only the required number of people that were supposed to be there were present. We were told our targets. The formation was decided instantly. The package was selected and we were told to get on to mission planning.
So they were ready, just waiting for a go-ahead. We let them know with just sufficient time to execute those missions.
It is all live now. There is no training anymore in that. The mindset was very clear through and through that yes, we are going for the missions, and I think we've prepared ourselves mentally.
Fortunately, Air Force trains the way we fight. The final day is final day. Nobody can take that away.
In the days leading up to the 6th and the 7th, without exception, I was in the Military Operations Directorate for very, very long hours. But on that particular day, I made a conscious effort to leave the directorate at about 7 in the evening to suggest to everybody that it was business as usual.
We didn't want anyone to get to know that today is the D-Day.
In the evening, at about 6 o'clock, I told everybody that let's pack up and only let's leave the duty officer here. And we'll get meet at about 10:30 or so. And quietly at that time, which was for me to go, I had asked for only one vehicle. And I just quietly moved out. Nobody in the house came to know, other than the guard who shouted, Jai Hind.
at approximately 10 o'clock at night. My daughter and son-in-law coincidentally happened to walk into the house. When they found out that I was headed to work, they said, "We will drop you." They dropped me at South Block.
I had planned my move out of Delhi that particular evening. As per everybody else, AP Singh was airborne to go to some place in Baroda. Got into an aircraft, but actually it never went to Baroda. We did one local sortie, came back and landed. Nobody knew that Chief has landed back.
I remember telling my household that I've got some work and I'm going out, so don't wait for me. Obviously, nobody knew where I was going.
Short of midnight, I asked my ADC to take out his personal car. I used the rear gate, which is never used by me.
So we took different routes to arrive at the operations room. And in the joint operations room, all the service chiefs were present. And we could see whatever was happening live.
I think it was about 11:30 at night when we started watching the leadership of the army, the three services, walking inside the operations room, that I suddenly realized that the strikes would take place today. There were live feeds coming in on multiple screens, and we could clearly see the targets in each of these feeds. It was a moment of great focus. I realized that we were at a historic moment. What was also extremely reassuring for me was to see the calmness in each and every one of them. From the junior-most officer right up to the senior-most leadership. They were all united in a sense of purpose.
In the entire Northern Command at that point of time, everybody was very sure that what they are expected to do, how it has to be executed, everything was in place. Everybody was just waiting that when is the time to deliver.
At that point in time, I was very confident, having spent very, very long hours planning the operation, putting everything into place. We'd worked out all the contingencies. So I felt that we'd done enough for the operation to succeed. But invariably, before any important event, and this time was no exception, I did have some butterflies in my stomach. And as I stood in front of a large number of screens, I suddenly had the sense that what if the vectors don't hit? What if these cameras that are sending me these images were to have a snag? What if everybody comes and sits down here and there is no show?